It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. This week, starring very special guest star, Mr. Barry DeVorzon. Woohoo! And welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
My pleasure. So, as I was saying a minute ago when we didn't have audio, Barry and I have known each other for like 15 or 20 years, and we're dear friends, and put the two of us on a phone call, and we can spend an afternoon on a phone call. And I always love interviewing him because some people think of you as a hit songwriter, some people think of you as an entrepreneur. I think of you as one of the great raconteurs. You're a raconteur. You can tell a story. Not only can you tell a story well, you've got like 1,000 of them in your arsenal because you've lived the kind of life that other people are envious of. You really have. And it's just, you know, sometimes when I can't sleep at night, Barry, I just want to call you up and say, tell me a story, Barry.
Well, I'll never disappoint you.
Well, you've got some great ones. So we'll get into all the contemporary stuff. I do want to go. Well, first of all, you know what? Let me read some of your bio, because for people who didn't read, will see this later and didn't have the opportunity to read the email. Barry founded Valiant Records in 1960. During the 60s, he signed the band The Association. Remember, what was...
On Comes Mary, Cherish, Never My Love.
Yep. Massive
Windy.
hits. Great stuff. It produced its first single, a cover of the Bob Dylan tune, One Too Many Mornings. Barry also wrote I Wonder What She's Doing Tonight for the Cascades, but the group didn't record it. In 1963, Barry recorded the song himself with his group Barry and the Tamerlanes, and that name Tamerlane will come into play shortly. Also in 63, co-wrote the ballad Shy Girl, which was recorded by the Cascades. He's composed the soundtracks to many 1970s and 80s films. One of those tunes, Cotton's Dream, from Bless the Beasts and Children, was retitled later as Nadia's theme, but you guys may know it best as the theme for The Young and the Restless. And it's, how long has it been on the air? Like 35 years or something?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you've got kids that aren't as old as that theme.
Right. And a lot of those shows have gone by the wayside.
Right. Almost all the soaps have
Yeah.
gone, but that one's one of the two that's left, I believe. Yeah. It was a number hit on the top 40 in 76. The album peaked at number 42. It won a Grammy for Best Instrumental Arrangement. The main title song, Bless the Beasts and Children, was recorded by the Carpenters, which, I mean, that was a good get. Everybody wanted to get a song by the Carpenters. It received an Academy Award nomination. Jeez.
I didn't win, but it was great being there.
Well, you know what they say. DeVorzon composed the tune It's Christmas once again in Santa Barbara, which was re-recorded with various other city names, such as San Francisco, San Diego. So if you had a San in your city name, you were bound to do a version of your song, which was kind of brilliant. Did you write it that way, knowing it was like a marketing thing that other people would cut it in other cities?
No. A bunch of us who live in Santa Barbara did it to raise money for a local charity. And it just caught on.
Well, we should let San Antonio and some of the other Sands know about it so they cut it. Barry also wrote the theme from S.W.A.T. And co-wrote the Eagles hit with Joe Walsh, In the City, which is another great story. In 1979, he wrote that in 79 for the movie The Warriors. When people on our staff today found out that the guy who wrote the music for The Warriors was going to be here, they were like stopping me in the kitchen in the hallway going, that dude wrote the music for The Warriors? I mean,
that movie has become such a cult movie. I can't believe it.
I know. It's great. Let's see. Oh, and most recently, he was one of the developers of Master Writer, the songwriting software, which we'll get into later. And even more recently has launched SongGuard, which we will also get into. But first, I want to talk to you about, let's see, I've got notes on several pages here. I just want to spend like 3 minutes because this is about music success. But I think the thing that really makes you so incredibly unique is that you've got the creative spirit of a songwriter and a composer, and you also have this entrepreneurial side, and you're able to balance the two. A lot of creative people are just, they create, they emote, and whatever comes out of them is what happens, and they don't really think about, well, gee, if I have a hit, maybe I should sock some of this money away. And you did that starting in the 60s by buying real estate. And I mean, whether you guys, assuming you have a hit at some point or make a nice chunk of money with something in film or TV, how did you know that to not, like snort it, drink it, or do what other rock stars do with their money? Instead, you had the instinct to invest it wisely, and it worked.
Well, I do have that side of the brain.
Yeah.
And a lot of creative people don't. And in a lot of ways, I've never been sure if that didn't impede the creative side a little bit. But it does have the advantage of perhaps helping me understand that just because you have a hit, there is no guarantee you're going to have a second hit.
That's right.
And if you have a second hit, there is no guarantee you're going to have a third. So until you really get to a place where you're bulletproof, you better take some of that money and invest it, put it away, And I think mistake a lot of young successful songwriters and artists make is they work, they try, they work, and then they hit it. And they make the mistake of thinking, that's it, I'm here.
I'm in, right.
Yeah. And a good part of the time that is not the case. So you have to just be cautious enough to say, okay, maybe I have made it, but I'm going to put a little bit of rainy day money aside in an investment or something.
You were so prescient investing in real estate in Santa Barbara originally, I think, or San Diego?
Well, L.A., really, and San Diego. And why real estate? Well, because I was a young guy. I certainly didn't know anything about the stock market or what shrewd investments would be and so forth and so on. But my dad was a musician all his life, and then he went into real estate. So I had that background. I said, well, land is not going anywhere.
So real estate, making more of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So at least I felt safer.
Yeah.
Knowing even if I overpaid, I'd never lose it.
Wow. Well, that was a good bet, and I hope that you inspire other people to have that thought when they make some money, because I see it with some of our members that start making money, when they have their first, let's say, $50,000 a year from a lot of times getting instrumental cues placed in reality shows. And some of the members invest it wisely and hang on to it and don't assume that next year will be as good or that it will continue forever. And some people don't. And they go out and the first thing they do is spend $50,000 on building a massive home studio, building walls within walls and doing all kinds of acoustic treatments and stuff. And at the end of the day, they really were doing just fine with a keyboard sitting on a desk and a couple of monitors and a computer. So I think that you're not only an inspiration, but a good model for all, that whatever form of investment, that people should think about that in the get-go, because, it's a job like any other. You got to save money.
Well, I think it's a good thing for you to tell your people, because it's the way it is.
So what keeps you going so strong? I mean, you're active even at an age that most people would be retired. Anybody else would be retired, but not you. And I mean, you're always starting something. You're always involved in something. You're always doing. Is that just your nature? Is that something you got from the family gene pool, or what motivates you?
Look at it this way. I've been very fortunate.
Yeah.
I've been able to do what I love doing and make a living. So really, you can't always be on the front line writing hits. I understand that. But I have no interest in retiring. I mean, why? What am I going to do? So maybe I'm not
Good
in
point.
the I'm
You
not
can
in the
golf or
trenches.
fish.
Well, yeah, but you know,
Not your thing.
yeah, but how long can you fish or golf?
I'd like to test that.
Yeah, well, you deserve a rest. This is the hardest working man I know.
Second hardest. I'm sitting next to the hardest.
But I still have an interest in life and people, and I like the feeling of accomplishment, and so I see no reason why I should retire. Now, what I have adjusted slightly is I don't work quite at the rate I did when I was much younger. You know, so I just find a great part-time job that I can really be interested in. And you know something? It just makes life more interesting. I have plenty of time for leisure time. And most importantly, it keeps you young, or at least young at heart.
You have an award-winning personality. Anybody who knows you would say that. And we've got mutual friends. Friends of mine from college, from the 70s, as it turns out, live near Barry and have gotten to know him over the years. And the times that Barry's name has come up in conversation, they'll say, man, that guy's the sweetest guy. He's funny. He's always got a great joke. He's got a great story. So I think your personality, which, I mean, I don't think you can really work on a personality. You're kind of born with it. But you were blessed in the personality department because you're likable and feel trustworthy. I think people want to do business with people who put themselves out there and live up to their word. And I think that's who you are at your core.
Well, can I come back here once a month and hear all this good stuff?
Well, it's all true, every word of it. Look, if you were a conniving shyster, I don't think that you'd be where you are today. I think that people want to do business with you, and they will climb on board with your projects and use your songs and buy your products because you're ethical, and that's part of the stew that makes those things up.
Well, I've always been a believer in karma. I've always been a believer in cause and effect. Mm. And I really think it works. What you put out there is going to come back at you. So if it's good stuff is going to come back to you. And vice versa. If it's bad stuff, I believe bad stuff will.
Yeah.
But I think it's important, at least it's been for me, to have a moral compass, to always do the right thing, to never cheat or do the wrong thing. And
I see it in your sons. I know all three of your sons, and I know two of them better than the third. I mean, I know Michael, but not all that well. But I know Matt and Daniel pretty well, and they're reflective of your personality and your ethics. I could pick them out of a crowd based on personality and know that they're your kids. So you did good there.
I think I did.
Yeah.
If you perceive that in my sons, then I've done the job I was supposed to do. But, it's not only tied to our luck and our good fortunes, but deep down in here, where no one else knows, you know.
Just in case that's out of frame. That was his stomach that he was doing that.
Yeah, right. You're the one who knows.
Yeah.
Whether you've done something you're ashamed of or not. And, it doesn't matter if the rest of the world doesn't know. So living your life with those principles, I believe, gives you a fuller and a more satisfying and a better life.
And you and your wife, Jalinda, have done a lot of stuff, charitable work in and around the Santa Barbara area. I know because I've been to your house and I've seen the 22 million photographs of you guys at just about every known star on the planet Earth, mostly, I'm guessing, from the Santa Barbara Film Festival, and that's where you've gotten to know them. But giving back has certainly been thematic in your life.
Well, I have to give all that credit to my wife.
Well, she did marry you.
All my life I wanted to be someone, now I am. Jalinda DeVorzon's husband. In Santa Barbara, that's how I'm known.
I get it. Well, I don't want to say where I live, but in the town I live in, I'm known as Deborah Lasco's husband. I completely relate to that. So, did you have a master plan? Well, let's start from the beginning. Let's see, we're okay on time. Start from the beginning. So, I know that you grew up out in Palm Springs, and at what point did you want to become a songwriter, and what was your life steps to get you to the point of having your first hit?
Well, real fast, my dad was a musician all his life.
Was that how he earned his income, or just recreational?
Oh, no, that's how he earned his income.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, he was one of the original Connecticut Yankees with Rudy Valley, when Rudy Valley was like Elvis Presley.
Wow.
And then he had
never
a
told me this.
small group, and they played only the best rooms. And but he loved his family, so we were gypsies. He took us from one city to the next. And after a while, my mom said, look, we just can't do this to these kids anymore. Okay? We were uprooting them from one school to the next. And she says, you know, we've got to settle down. So they decided to settle in Palm Springs. And then he went out on the road for a little while and then said, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So he went into real estate and essentially quit the entertainment business.
Well, did he play keyboard or guitar?
No, he was a singer and played violin, and he had a guitar player and either a piano player or a bass. They were a trio.
Wow.
But it was a different kind of entertainment at the time, and you know, he played all the big rooms in all the hotels, and it's where people used to come and drink, and people would sing, and you know, it's a different time. But the one thing they were convinced of is,
I think they still drink and listen to music. Just
no, but it's different.
Put that out
it's
there.
different.
Yeah.
You know, there used to be piano bars where people sang. You know, it was a little bit different. But the one thing they knew, and they were unified in, they did not want me to become a musician. They wanted something better for me.
It sounds like your dad did pretty well, though.
Well, no, they didn't. They didn't encourage me. They didn't have me learn an instrument. They bought a piano for my sister because that was okay for the girl to be able to play the piano. And she had no interest, so the piano became a piece of furniture in the living room. My dad didn't play it. My sister didn't play it. And I didn't play it. So it just sat there. And then in high school, I just was drawn to it. And I used to kibitz around on it, and I taught myself to play the piano. They never gave me piano lessons.
You're probably better off.
Yeah, they were that determined, but they didn't think in terms of songwriting and producing, and you know, they just thought of a traveling musician.
How old were you when you tried to craft your first song?
Oh, I wrote a bunch of songs in high school. And of course, my friends liked them, and my folks liked them. Mm-hmm. But that was it. And then I went to Pasadena City College, and I went on a television show for songwriters called Peter Pan, or some kind of television show. And I went on with some of my college buddies, and playing background, and my song won.
Wow.
And I said, I'm in. You know, this
that
is
was
great.
Like the American Idol of its time, right?
And of course, nothing ever happened. And then I went into the Navy. You know, so.
How long were you in the Navy?
4 years.
Wow, that's a long stint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you do anything musical during the Navy years, or were you too busy swabbing decks or whatever?
No music whatsoever.
And were you like, did you have a burning desire to get back to it as soon as you got out? Did you feel like you were imprisoned?
All right, now you're going to get into the nitty-gritty story.
Yeah.
I came out of the Navy, and I signed up to go to Carrier Air Conditioning and Refrigeration School.
I've got a Carrier air conditioner at
Yes.
home. I know who to call now.
Even as a young man, I had vision. I said, air conditioning is the coming thing. And in the Navy, I was an engineer, so I worked with some of that along with the steam turbines. So I was going to go to air conditioning and refrigeration school, and because I thought air conditioning was the new thing. And of course, I was right.
Absolutely.
And
right.
had I gone to Carrier, I probably would have made more money than I made in music even. But
You probably own Carrier.
anyway, so I was all signed up to go. And my sister called me from Palm Springs, and she said, Barry, they recorded your song. It's on the radio.
Who
I said,
recorded?
What? Who? What? Apparently, while I was in the Navy, she worked for a music publisher, and she kept pushing my songs. And this guy got one of my songs recorded by a guy called Bob Carroll on Bally Records, and it turned out to be the song that I played on that television show. All right?
Wow.
So
and did they have any of the publishing at that point, or they pitched it? Your sister pitched it while
no,
you still owned all the publishing.
He had the publishing.
Okay.
Yeah, and he pitched it. I don't know. He didn't even. No one knew that it was recorded. Anyway, my sister called the radio station. She says, somebody stole my brother's song. And so the DJ said, who's your brother? She says, Barry DeVorzon. He said, well, that's who wrote it. Anyway, back in L.A., when I hear this, I go down to Sunset and Vine, which is Music City, the biggest record store in L.A. And I go in there, and I said, do you have Look What You've Done to Me, Bob Carroll? And the girl says, yes, we do.
Wow. That must have been
I picked up the
seminal
record
moment.
and saw my name on that record, and it was, hello, music business, goodbye, Carrier. All right? I bought that record. I got in my car. I'm driving back to my apartment in L.A., and I'm saying, I'm rich. This is great. Of course, I made $259.
Which would be like making $20K today. But.
No. It was a real awakening. Just because your name is on a record doesn't mean you're going to make that much money.
But you did have a hit not long after, right?
That's another story.
I want to hear it.
Well, when I decided I wanted to be in the music business, I went after it. And I've always done that in life.
Mm-hmm.
I pounded the pavements. I went everywhere. I networked. I wrote songs. It was a 10-hour day every day. And I got some things recorded. I didn't have a publisher, so I was pushing my own stuff. But nothing happened much.
Over what period of time? Like 6 months, a year, a couple of years?
A year.
Okay.
And I was in a publisher's office, and he says, kid, you ought to try writing country music. Well, I was so desperate. I said, maybe I should. Now, in the Navy, I hated country music.
Okay.
Because the cooks on my destroyer, they kept playing country music, and I didn't like it, but I was stuck with it. But I was a desperate young man, so I tuned in the country station, and boy, country music was really country at that time. Webb Pierce, I just didn't get it.
Its own craft.
Yeah.
It wasn't like typical songwriting.
Yeah. No, it's great songwriting, but it's country.
Not like pop that.
Yeah. So until I heard a guy called Marty Robbins.
Mm.
And Marty Robbins was a very contemporary country artist. He was more in the pop, field, more, country pop.
Yeah.
So I got him. So I said, okay, there's my man, Marty Robbins. I got to write a song for Marty Robbins. And I sat down to write my first country song. And you really have to pay attention. It just isn't that easy.
Were you writing by yourself?
Yeah.
At this point? Okay.
To go into just a completely different genre and think you're just going to knock it off, So I really had to keep listening to the country station, and I said, well, I need a hook. Country music loves hooks. And I opened a magazine, and I saw this car in an advertisement driving away with the tin cans tied to the back bumper, and on the back of the window it said, just married. And I said, there's my hook. So I wrote this song. Just married this morning, how happy they are. Just married, written on the window of their car. This is how the song started. Anyway, I worked on this song, and I finally got to a place where I said, that has Marty Robbins' name on it. You know, now I have a problem. How do I get it to Marty Robbins?
This is all resonating like crazy for our audience, I'm sure, because I think every musician, every songwriter certainly has been in this place where they had this thing they wrote and certainly could get it, or wanted to get it, needed to get it.
Now what? You know, anyway.
And he was in Nashville, and you were in L.A.?
You know, I was so naive. I didn't even know he was in Nashville. You know, I just knew Marty Robbins. I got to get this song to Marty Robbins.
Yeah, that didn't stop you, I'm sure.
So I was in another publisher's office, and he left the room to go to the bathroom, and I looked on his desk, and I see all these record company addresses and everything. And I knew that Marty Robbins recorded for Columbia. So I went over there real fast, grabbed a piece of paper, and wrote down the address of Columbia Records, you know, and then put it in my pocket. The guy comes back. So now...
Barry DeVorzon, spy.
I go home, and now I get this envelope, and in those days we had discs, you know, the, what do you call it, the the hard disk.
Yeah, an acetate probably.
An acetate. So I put this acetate in here, and I sent this song, this is going to be funny, to the president of Columbia Records in New York City, who was Mitch Miller.
Wow.
So I sent it to
Mitch
the president.
Miller, as in the Mitch Miller Show.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. But he happened to be the president of Columbia Records also. So I sent it to Mr. Mitch Miller, Columbia Records, New York. Well, and I didn't include anything in there because I don't know Mitch Miller. What am I going to say, you know?
So you didn't have a cover letter even?
No. I just put it in there knowing. I was young.
Was your name
I was young and
your...
stupid, okay? And so I said, the minute they hear this, they're going to know.
Of course.
It's for Marty Robbins, you know. Now, that sounds stupid and naive, but it's true.
It's classic,
you know,
is what it is.
I didn't say anything, you know, so I put it in there and sent it to Mitch Miller. Now, let me share something with you. For the president of Columbia Records, not the A&R student or the producer, to even open a letter from some kid on the coast called Barry DeVorzon, to open a package was very unlikely. And even if he didn't, or even if he did or his secretary did, it goes right into the filing cabinet called the wastebasket because there's certain, you know, liabilities attached to that. So, and then lastly, it should have gone to Marty Robbins' producer in Nashville. That's where it should have gone. But instead, it went to the president of Columbia Records, Mitch Miller. Well, the chances of anyone hearing that and getting it in Marty Robbins' hands are in the same category as buying a lottery ticket. And I'm not kidding.
I believe
that unlikely.
Yeah.
And, of course, nothing happened. So, one day I'm out there pounding the pavements, running around. I'm so poor, I'm living with my Aunt Eleanor, okay? Mm-hmm. And I come home at the end of the day, and Aunt Eleanor says, Barry, Mr. Mitch Miller is trying to reach you, and he left this number for you. I said, Mitch Miller? Oh, my God! You know, so I run in the house. It's 5:30 in California, so it's 8:30 in New York, you know. So I called the number, and since it's 8:30, he picked up the phone. You know, everyone else was gone. I said, Mr. Mitch Miller? He said, yes. I said, this is Barry DeVorzon. You called me and wanted me to call. Yes,
That's such a great story.
So I said, well, what is it? He said, well, you sent me a song called Just Married. I said, yes, sir. He said, and I recorded it with one of my major artists, and I just wanted to know the status of the song. I said, well, the status of the song, Mr. Miller, is it's yours. You know, this is great. Who did you record it with? And he says, Marty Robbins. Wow. Now, can you...
Only you, Barry. This stuff doesn't happen for normal people.
To this day, that is one of the greatest moments in my life. That the guy I wrote it for, they recorded it. Now, it gets even better because Just Married went to #1 and stayed at #1 in the country charts for 6 months.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Traded off with another song at the time called Oh Lonesome Me. And it was either Just Married #1 and Oh Lonesome Me 2 and vice versa. And that's how I got my first hit.
Did you have publishers beating a past your door after that, wanting to get a piece of you because you had a hit on your first outing?
No, but it helped.
Yeah.
The minute you get any kind of credibility, people are listening to you. But I'll tell you something funny. So what do you think I was doing? I was writing Marty Robbins' follow-up hit. Okay? So I wrote this song for Marty called Treasure of Your Love. And I sent it to my new best friend, Mitch Miller. Okay?
This is great.
This time, 2 weeks goes by, Mitch Miller calls Barry DeVorzon. Barry, I got that song, Treasure of Your Love. Oh, great, Mr. Miller. He says, I recorded it. I said, oh, terrific. With Marty? He says, no, with Eileen Rogers. And I went, Eileen Rogers? Who was Eileen Rogers? I mean, this song was for Marty. I didn't say that.
Right.
I was thinking it. And I'm saying, wow, I never heard of Eileen Rogers. I was disappointed. So, Eileen Rogers had one hit in her entire career, and it was with my song, Treasure of Your Love.
You were the golden boy.
So by the time I got to New York and met Mitch Miller, he took me around Columbia with his arm around me. He says, see this kid? I've had 2 major hits with him, and this is the first time.
Do you remember how old you were? Obviously in your 20s, but...
Yeah, I was like 24.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, what was the Tom Hanks character? The ping pong. Somebody help me here. Tom Hanks, that movie. He was a soldier in Vietnam. Forrest Gump. Yeah, you're like Forrest Gump, I mean, you're everywhere and you could do no wrong.
Well, do you know something? Yeah, luck plays such a
you might have written
role.
A couple of great songs. That had something to do with it.
Yes, it did.
They didn't cut crap,
No, it all falls into place. It's luck. It's when the opportunity hits, having the goods, which means, even then I was a perfectionist. When I put something out, it was absolutely my best. And, that's important because when that opportunity arrived, I had the goods. And the third thing to remember, I think, is try anything. What have you got to lose? You see, a lot of people wouldn't try to do that because it's too far-fetched to send your song to Columbia from,
Well, now you get arrested as a stalker, but, you got to try.
Yeah, you got to try. Just try things.
How did you know at that young age and with that lack of experience, how did you know anything about songcraft? Because somebody like Mitch Miller was not going to take a song that wasn't rich with craft. You were obviously writing stuff in classic pop form for the time. How did you learn that?
I guess, throughout life, I was a person who always tried to do their best. It was just kind of my discipline.
Did you listen to a lot of stuff and just, absorb it by osmosis so it became part of your writing soul, if you will?
Well, yeah, music, professional, trying to be a professional in the music business, I was smart enough to know I better really understand what's going on and the best way to get a piece of it, and that you got to pay attention, and then that was all part of educating myself. But I think instinctively, I just couldn't write a song unless I thought it was great, and I I didn't finish writing it until I thought it was great.
I want to jump ahead. I was going to talk about master writer later on in this discussion, but I saw you go through that with master writer. You know, there are rhyming dictionaries out there. Anybody can use the thesaurus in Microsoft Word. There are tools that songwriters routinely use, but master writer was so incredibly comprehensive. When you rolled it out, there was so much stuff in it, and over the years you've never let go of that urge or that drive to keep improving it and keep adding more features to it. I remember when at one point you were doing like version 2.0 of it. You probably spent 2 or 3 years just adding all kinds of words to it and stuff. Tell me a little bit about the journey into creating Master Writer. Was it your own frustration that caused you to do it, or was it seeing other people struggling to find the right word? Tell me what caused you to do it, and then I'll have you explain what it is.
Well, another songwriter brought up the idea to me, and somehow I wasn't interested, but he talked me into doing it.
Good to know you can be talked into something.
Yeah, and I said, well, you know, this sounds like something, a collection of tools for songwriters. Yeah, this sounds like a good idea. And like anything else I said earlier, I'm putting something back into a profession that's been very good to me. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah, why not help the songwriter out? Believe me, the songwriter needs all the help he can get. So the only mistake I made is thinking that it was going to be easy when I should have known nothing is easy.
Right.
If you want to succeed in this world, whether it's a songwriter or in a business or whatever, just remember, nothing is easy, and you know this better than anyone.
do, but your first stories, you know, about Marty Robbins and Mitch Miller make it sound like it was kind of easy for you, but I know you well enough.
Sometimes Lady Luck steps in and makes it easier.
But you did have to write great songs or it wouldn't happen, because Mitch Miller was, you know, he was the song guy at the time. He was Clive Davis before Clive Davis was Clive Davis.
Well, I can sum up Master Writer in this respect. I'm going to use a, what would you call it, a metaphor. We're in a business where it's very difficult to succeed, and a very small percentage of people who aspire to be songwriters and artists are able to do it. Right. And I don't mean get famous. I mean make a living doing what they love doing. Yeah. Well, professional athletics is really no different. You know, all these people playing basketball and football across our nation, only a precious few become pros. So I ask you this. If I had a program that would make a professional basketball player or football player 5% better, do you think anyone would not buy that program?
Absolutely.
Because that 5% is a big 5% in professional athletics.
But there's a big difference, and you and I have had this conversation over the years, which is that athletes know they have to work hard at muscle memory and muscle training and all sorts of things that go into being a great athlete. Musicians somehow feel like they're born imbued with this creative power, that they come out of their mommy's womb just talented and ready to go. It's the rare musician that understands that they not only have to do the work, but they should use the tools to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can either take that tire off with a lug wrench, or you can get a power tool, you know. Right. You know, so Master Writer is kind of a power tool when you need one. Mm-hmm. You know, and
it doesn't write the songs for you.
No, and you use it as you feel.
Give me an example.
You know. Well, you can use it only when you need it, or you can use it after you've written the song and you want to finesse it and use your craft to make it even better lyrically.
Let's give an example. You have used this one with me on numerous occasions. The sun. Most people would write the sun or the hot sun.
The hot sun.
The hot sun.
Well,
Master writer would give you...
Well, most songwriters use my rhyming dictionaries and phrasal dictionaries, and we have all the figures of speech.
Yeah.
And but you're talking about a dictionary called word families, which just gives you those words you won't find in a thesaurus. So if you're trying to write a lyric about the hot sun beating down, a thesaurus will give you burning and blazing and fiery, but word families will give you an angry sun, a punishing sun, a glaring sun, an unforgiving sun.
Ooh, like
See,
that one. Yeah.
Those are
more interesting.
Just another level of descriptive words that writers or songwriters can really use just to be different, to stand out.
And that's just one of
just one
many things that Master Writer does. So you've got all these huge hit songwriters that use Master Writer, and frankly, it's always surprised me and simultaneously put a smile on my face. List off like 5 of the people that come.
Oh no, we have a lot of guys: David Foster, Babyface, Trent Reznor. Gosh, help me, Matt. Rob Thomas, Gwen Stefani,
Kenny
Loggins.
So people of that level of their craft and that amount of success, yet I give them a lot of credit for not being so egotistical that they don't realize that their stuff can always be better and that they use a tool like
remember my athlete analogy.
Yeah.
There's not an athlete that wouldn't buy a program that would make them 5% better. All right?
Right.
Now, if you're a songwriter, Master Writer will make you a lot better than 5%. So the question is, if you're a songwriter, why wouldn't you want that edge? You need every edge you can get in this business.
I go back to what I always say, which is musicians or songwriters in particular feel like they're either born with talent and greatness, and there's a sense of entitlement. And I don't. Your argument is perfectly strong, and I buy it. I buy it.
Well, I'm going to make one more argument for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
The brain.
Yeah.
Is an amazing instrument. And where we get the inspiration for our songs, no one knows, but it's probably God-given. It's a connection that is not there 24/7. It's a connection that only comes when it wants to come.
Right.
All right?
The muse.
Yes. So if you are connected to your muse and you're writing the song and you're getting that emotional ingredient that's going to touch others, okay, you want to keep that connection. So if in writing this song you need a rhyme for night, why would you use this limited Rolodex of the mind to say fight, bite, write? Why? You see, you go from the creative side of the brain to the analytical side, and you review a very limited Rolodex of rhymes for night when you can stay connected. If Master Writer's open, you just feed night in there and bang, all of the possibilities for night are right in front of you, and you can collect as many as you want and then look at your lyrics and see which ones work. So it's just a very what is the word I'm looking for? Efficient way to write. And you use your brain to create that song, and you use Master Writer for the reference when you need a rhyme for night or sea or day or whatever it is.
It's funny, our taxi members that are composers that do a lot of TV stuff in particular all talk about how they've become faster and better over time because they don't spend time searching for sounds. When they're sitting down to compose a tension cue, they don't sit there and think, oh, should I use the pizzicato strings from this library or that library? Should I go with a darker tone? They put that stuff to the side and they just go, okay, these are pizzy notes in here, and they just write them in as pizzy or play them, into MIDI and know that they're going to be pizzicato. And later they go back, almost like songwriters use Master Writer if they want to keep the flow going, they could just put night in there and go back later so they don't lose the flow. But you're saying use it to keep the flow going, which makes perfect sense as well.
Well, once again, any way you feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
You can use it during the creative process, and once that connection is gone, now you look at what the muse gave you, and you say, how can I find a better way to express myself? How can I make this better? And then Master Writer as a tool shines to help you find, to make what you really want to express the best it can be. You know, remember one thing. The greatest enemy of creation is distraction. So however you do it, like your guy with the pizzicato notes.
Yeah.
Stay in the moment, listen to the muse, and then you can always go back and make those decisions when it isn't interfering with that connection.
Let's talk about Nadia's theme. Let's go back to your songwriting for a moment. It has to be one of the most successful instrumental things to ever hit radio in the history of music. There haven't been... Ferranti and Teicher, they're, you know, what was that? Love is Blue was them?
It would have to be considered my biggest copyright, I think.
Well, and just, I mean, there haven't been that many instrumental hits in the history of the business. Certainly not in modern, you know, from the 60s forward. How did that come about?
Well, I did a movie for Stanley Kramer called Bless the Beast and Children.
Right. And you did it as scoring it, or
scoring it, and wrote the songs, and Bless the Beast and Children, you know, was recorded by the Carpenters,
mm-hmm.
and as it turns out, my second movie, I was nominated for an Academy Award, and it was a hit with the Carpenters, so it was terrific.
He says that so modestly.
Yeah, but I almost got in some trouble here, because Bless the Beast and Children, I wove this theme throughout the whole picture. It's about a bunch of kids who were misfits at a summer camp, and they try to rescue this herd of buffalo, and in the process, the lead kid is accidentally killed. All right, so it's a very sad moment. Well, here I had used this theme in a major key throughout the whole picture, and now this little boy is killed, and you can't play
a major
theme in a major, you know, key. So I said, what am I going to do? And it wouldn't be appropriate just to write something out of the wind there, you know, because there's no connection to the score. And I had really kind of painted myself into a corner. It was only my second movie, so it's understandable. So I said, what am I going to do here? And then it occurred to me, the accompaniment to Bless the Beast and the Children was this very identifiable motif,
mm-hmm.
you know, where the chord went to the ninth and then back to the tonic, back to the ninth, back to the tonic. So it was a very recognizable motif. So I said, wow, what if I take that motif, that accompaniment, and just put it in a minor key? So now I have the identification of that motif, and all I have to do is write a new melody over those chords. And that was enough identification with the main theme that it worked.
Right.
Now, because it was such an important and crucial time in the picture, the only way I know to treat that is to write a melody that touches the heart. And how do you know it touches the heart? Because it touches your heart. You see? And that's an important criteria. When you're writing a song, if it doesn't touch you emotionally, you don't have anything.
Let's listen to it and see how it touches us emotionally. Volume is up.
Right.
You wrote a classic.
Thank you. Thank you.
It really is that good. And people are talking, oh, yeah, that's the theme from The Young and the Restless, which it became. So how did it go from the film to the TV show? And that must have been one of the happy days of your life.
You know, it's funny. You can hear the sadness in there playing that scene. But it did touch me emotionally, and it worked in the movie, and I was really happy. Now, when you do a score for a movie, you name all the cues, because that's how you get paid on your performances. And so that little cue was called Cotton's Dream, because that's the kid that died. And the picture came out, didn't do that well, had a hit with the Carpenters and all that with Bless the Beast, and then it was essentially over. And then 2 years later, a producer called me up and said, you know something, on the Bless the Beast and Children soundtrack album, there was a cue called Cotton's Dream. I said, yes. He said, well, I got a new daytime television show going on the air, and I'd like to use that as my main title theme. What do you think of that? And I said, well, if you were here, I'd be kissing your hands. That's what I think about it. Of course you can use that. So Cotton's Dream became theme for The Young and the Restless. And I mean, it's like my first hit. How did this guy, this TV producer, hear this soundtrack? But
you
that
must have done something so right at some point in your lifetime.
But the cut just hit him, and with all the possibilities, he wanted that as the theme for The Young and Restless. So it came out, and there was a flurry of recordings, but nothing happened really, a lot. I mean, there was, some people recorded, but nothing that turned it into a hit or anything. But 5 days a week, national television,
daytime
songwriters, that's a lot of performances. It was a very, very happy thing for me. Now, 5 years from the time I did the movie, Nadia stole the heart of the world by winning a perfect score on the double horizontal bars, and it was filmed in slow motion. And some music director at ABC in New York needed a piece of music to play behind this slow motion film clip of Nadia winning the first perfect score. And I guess he, in his library, which is all these different albums, things like that, he remembers on a soundtrack album for Bless the Beast, there was a cut that might work. This is a 5 years.
What year was this approximately? 80s?
I forget. Do you? No, was it?
I remember Saturday Night Live used to spoof
Nadia
it was
probably in the 70s, I think. Anyway, he remembered there was a soundtrack album with this cut, Cotton's Dream, and he listened to it, he says, it'll work perfectly.
Wow.
So he laid the original cut from the soundtrack album, Cotton's Dream, behind Nadia Comaneci, and there was an immediate reaction to this. And of course, they were playing it all on every television station. And A&M re-released Cotton's Dream and retitled it as Nadia's Theme.
And they released it to radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a single, which is mind-blowing in and of itself.
It turns out to be the biggest copyright of my career. Once again, a lot of luck involved in that happening. There's just one small addendum. Then years later, Mary J. Blige does No More Drama based on Nadia's theme. So this little Cotton's Dream keeps reinventing itself.
And it's still on the show, by the way. You know that.
Yeah, it's still on the Young and the Restless.
But...
And, you know, it's just a miraculous little piece of music. But once again, I mean, give me melody, boy. If you write the right melody, you just never know where it's going to land.
Let's jump ahead. Let's go to S.W.A.T. Bria, can you play S.W.A.T, please? And then we'll talk about it. Right back. I just feel like I should be in character. Huggy Bear. Did you do all the orchestration?
I did the arrangement.
Yeah.
I always had an orchestrator. Do
Right.
The orchestration.
He had to write all, steam me up. The music's that good. Synthesizer.
They just come out, man. There wasn't a lot.
Sounds really good. I never noticed the siren.
You got the long version there.
The audience loves it. Did you know how good that was when you wrote it?
Well, I got to make this short. It's just amazing, but all these stories have the same kind of center line to them, you know?
That's because you are the center line of all
Well,
this stuff.
but
You're the common thread.
I had done Bless the Beasts and Children. I had never done a television show. And I was going into a club in L.A. with my wife, and I bumped into Aaron Spelling, who was a big television producer. And so
The biggest of the big.
yeah, we said hello, and Jalinda was pregnant at the time, so he made a big fuss about her belly and all that. And I said to him, kidding on the square, Aaron, you know, you have all these hit television shows, but you've never had a hit theme. Why don't you give me a shot one of these days, and I'll write you a hit theme? I was kidding on the square because nobody can predict you're going to write a hit theme. And he said, I'll give it some thought, Barry. And then about 6 months later, I get a call in Santa Barbara, Aaron Spelling's office. He has a new show going on mid-season. He wants you to come down to 20th and look at it. Well, I was so excited. So I got in my car, went to L.A., went to 20th. They showed me to the screening room, and I'm all excited. And they play it for me, and it's the SWAT truck, and these guys coming out of it with the guns, and it's just about a SWAT team. And I said, oh, I was so disappointed. How do you write a hit about a SWAT team? I mean, everyone hated SWAT. You know, it was named the L.A. riots. You know, I mean, the SWAT team, they were the Nazis of L.A. And, you know, I said, couldn't it have been a guy and a girl, 2 guys, 2 girls, anything I can get my teeth in? Instead, he gives me a SWAT team. You know,
well, at least you knew it'd be up-tempo.
Yeah, so I went into his office. He says, well, and I said, oh, great, Aaron. So I went back to Santa Barbara, and for 1 week, I tried to write a hit about a SWAT team. And at the end of the week, I finally said, it's impossible to write a hit about a SWAT team. So the next best thing is I was going to use my contemporary chops, because at that time, television was kind of jazzy and big band. So
What year was this?
76.
Okay.
I said, I'm going to use some rock and roll here and give him a really exciting theme, a bombastic, exciting theme. And in that process, he'll forget that it's not going to be a hit. It'll serve the show. And so I really spent my time seeing this truck pull up and these guys burst out of the doors, and to write a theme that would play that and kick it off. And so I did that.
Did you have to time it to picture as well?
Oh, yeah. Whenever you do a score, everything is timed.
But this was a theme. So
well, yeah, but even the theme has to be timed.
But the intro of the show is the same thing every week, so you had to time it. Okay.
Right. So it was very heavily rhythm-oriented, obviously. And, you know, what I learned in the music business, a lot of people don't understand this. Rhythm is what rock and roll is all about. And you just don't go in there in 10 minutes and knock off a rhythm track. It can take days sometimes. So I went to the music director who worked for Spelling, a guy called Rocky, and I said, could I have a session just with the rhythm players? And he laughed. He said, buddy, this is television. No, we don't do that. We get the band in and you just,
3 takes and we're done.
And I said, Rocky, I just need some time with the other. So he finally said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you an hour. So I'll have the rhythm players come in an hour early, and then the rest of the orchestra. Now, this is my first time. In motion pictures, they gave you a reasonable amount of time to get it right. In television, you don't have that. You have a 3-stripe, you go in there, 1 rundown, take, next. It's a whole different ball game. And it was my first ball game, so I was nervous. And I wanted to have it turn out good, and I wanted to please Aaron. Anyway, the rhythm players were in there an hour early. I was in a studio I'd never recorded in. I didn't know the engineer. A lot of things were against me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the studio trying to get this rhythm together. And, you know, rhythm is nothing you can write. You can write out the chord symbols, but you've got to get the rhythm players to get into that groove. And after an hour, I was nowhere. I mean, I didn't have what was in my head that I needed.
Yeah.
And now Rocky walks out in the studio and says, well, that's it. I've got 28 musicians in the coffee room. Get it to tape. Now, every shred in my body wanted to say, okay, Rocky, because I've just been given my orders. But I couldn't do it. And so I said, Rocky, I just can't. I can't go to tape now. It's not ready. He said, maybe you didn't understand what I said.
Hello, Mr. Spelling.
I said, we get it to tape because I've got 28 players I'm paying. I said, I can't do it.
Holy crap.
He said, you've just taken control of this session. I want you to understand that. And he turned on his heel and walked out. Now I'm really tense. I'm there with the rhythm players, and I'm trying. Another 45 minutes go by, and I finally get it. So I go into the booth to get it down to tape, and man, it's like death in there. Nobody's talking to me, you know. And
this will be the first and last time I ever see Barry DeVorzon.
So I said to the engineer, let's hit it. We got the rhythm tracks down, and then he sarcastically says, can I let the rest of the orchestra in now, Barry? I said, yes. And the rest of the orchestra comes in, and it's I'm very tense. You know, it's my first time, and everything is happening. Anyway, during a break, he tells the engineer, you know, I did the main title on 24 track, and the cues were on 3 strike. He tells the engineer, run off a rough off the 24 track on the theme. So I hear that, and I said, excuse me, why? Why do you want him to run off a rough off the 24? Well, Mr. Spelling wants to hear the theme. And I said, You're going to take a 5-minute rough mix off a 24 track for Mr. Spelling to hear my theme? He said, that's what Mr. Spelling wants, Barry. I said, well, no. No. When Mr. Spelling hears my theme, he's going to hear it the way I visualized it. And he looked at me and said, son, you've done the first and last television show you'll ever do for us. I want you to know that. And so now I'm doubly tense. Finish the thing. Everyone leaves. No one says goodbye. No one acknowledges me. They just leave. And I'm there with the engineer, who turns out to be a pretty nice guy, an Israeli guy. And so we mix it. And then I go to my apartment in L.A., and I call my wife. She says, well, how did it go? How did it go? And I said, how did it go? I have a double vodka in my hand, and I've never had a more tense day than the one I had today. You know, she says, well, how did it turn out? I said, you know something, baby? I don't even know at this stage. I am so stressed. I don't even know how it turned out. And so the next day, I didn't hear from anybody, which is not a good sign. And then in the afternoon, I got a call from Len Goldberg, who was Aaron's partner.
Yeah.
And Len is the hatchet man.
Ooh.
Aaron didn't like confrontation, so when anyone had to get bad news, it was usually Len who gave it to them. So he was calling me. So I got on the phone, getting ready for the killing blow. He said, Barry, that theme is great. Aaron is dancing around the office. He loves it. He thinks it's the best. You know, he's going crazy. He says, now, you went over budget. That's a no-no, Barry. We can't do this again. You know, this is television. But it was worth it for this theme. So, I tell this story to my kids because sometimes in life, you just got to do what you have to do. And if that was going to be the last time I worked for Aaron Spelling, so be it. But had I not taken that stand, I wouldn't have had a #1 record. Because that's exactly what happened to the theme from S.W.A.T. It went to #1 in the nation. When I never dreamt you could write a hit about a SWAT team. #1 in
and
every
an
chart.
instrumental. In '76, we're talking the Eagles were a hit. Fleetwood Mac was a hit. And here comes Barry DeVorzon with this up-tempo, wah-wah guitar theme, and you have a hit.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And you know, today there isn't a marching band in the United States that doesn't have that in their repertoire.
The show is, there have been SWAT movies, another SWAT TV show.
Yeah.
So you seem to have a habit of writing stuff that's timeless. And I mean, look at this. We're talking 40 years later. That copyright is still working for you. 40 years.
No one is more impressed than me, believe me. You know, I have to pinch myself every once in a while.
That's what makes you so lovable, is that you don't walk around with your nose in the air. You walk around astonished at your own success.
I must admit, yes.
That's a pretty cool thing to do. We've got 15 minutes left. Wow, time is, I told you it would fly. I want to play In the City, because when you told me that you co-wrote that with Joe Walsh, all your stories are great. And I sit there like a kid at his father's feet, you know, Dad, tell me another story. But Joe Walsh, the Eagles, and then Barry DeVorzon co-writing with Joe Walsh. So obviously it happened for the movie The Warriors, which we touched on earlier. It's, you know, become a cult classic. How did that session go? Where you walk into a room, how did it happen that you got teamed up with Joe Walsh? Was it your idea? Was it somebody else's idea? And how did the writing session start?
Well, Joe and I were friends. You know, he lived in Montecito.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he and Jody. He was married to Jody at the time, and they lived in Montecito, and we were friends. And so when I got the picture, The Warriors, and started working on it, I thought, wow, you know, this might be a great end title song. And I called Joe and I said, hey, you want to write an end title song with me? He said, sure. So we got together to write the end title. You know, the Warriors had a very electric kind of theme for the main title. But I needed an end title song. And since Joe was not only a friend, but he was an artist at the time.
Yeah, he was the smoker you get, the player, the smoker you drink, the player you get. Or
I got a Rari.
Right, great song.
Life's Been Good.
Yeah,
so
recorded in Miami.
So it was easy. We got together. Joe is a really cool guy, and he came to my house and we wrote it, and then we got the A-list musicians and went in and recorded it, and that's.
Did Simzik engineer that? Because I was listening to it earlier.
No.
It sounds like Eagles Tom Tom. Simzik had a very signature.
Yeah,
Tom
no,
Tom
he
sound.
didn't. We did it, I think, at Western or United in L.A. But so the Warriors came out, and Joe and I wrote the end title, and it was all great.
Did you write it at your house?
Oh, yeah.
In Montecito?
Oh, yeah.
In the room with the piano, and
I was on the piano, and Joe was on the guitar. Yeah.
Did he write it on an acoustic?
No, he had electric.
Electric? Wow.
Yeah. And,
so anyway, upstairs yelling, "Turn that shit down!"
No, but as it turns out, Joe didn't release it, you know, as an artist.
Yeah.
So it just was on the soundtrack album, but it was never released as a single. And so that was that. And then one day, you know, the Eagles had a huge success with Hotel California, and they were working on the follow-up album.
The Long Run.
Yeah, The Long Run. And Joe calls me up, and Joe speaks with kind of a drawled, well, Barry, how you doing? You know, good, Joe. He says, you know, the Eagles are thinking of recording In the City. Now, I'm thinking, the Eagles are thinking of recording in the city. A follow-up album to Hotel California. I said, Joe, I want you to do me a favor. Never mention this again until you can walk into my house with an Eagles album and my song is on there. Because if it gets lost in the mix, and it does, you know, they go into the studio and they record maybe 20 songs and maybe 10 make the cut.
Yeah.
You know, I said, if I let myself believe that the Eagles are going to record the song and they don't, it doesn't make the cut, I'll kill myself. So let's leave it alone till you can walk in with that album. And one day, my front gate bell rang. Hello? It's Joe. I got something I want to play you. And he walked in and played me the Long Run album. I was probably one of the first ones to hear it.
What a great
and
record
my
that
song was on it.
Did you hear all these parts, the vocal parts and stuff, or was that stuff put in, was that part of the Eagles production, or were you and Joe working out those parts?
No, actually,
as you were writing?
The background vocals weren't in there. And after we recorded it, I felt something was missing, so I added 3 black singers in the background. And then I called Joe. I said, I'm sending you something over. I just felt it needed some of those background vocals. But if you don't like it, I'll take it out, because obviously, you know, black singers behind Joe is not exactly...
Right, it's a mismatch.
Yeah. And he got back to me and said, no, man, I think it works. I said, okay. So, I mean, basically the Eagles took those vocal parts, yeah.
Wow. How was he to write with? Did the session just flow, or were there...
Yeah, we were... yeah, it was fun writing with him. We, you know, nobody was defensive. We were just friends and respected each other, and, you know, you just work with each other till something happens.
Do you remember, probably 5 years ago or so, I called you up about 4 days before the road rally and said, Diane Warren is sick as a dog and can't do the road rally. She was our honoree that year, and she called me on the phone. It's Diane. I mean, literally, like, couldn't even say a whole sentence, and I was freaking out. I mean, you know, 2,500 people coming to town, and I've got no star to put up there. So Barry says, you want me to call Walsh or Kenny Loggins or somebody? He starts picking up the phone, calling all these people to see if they would fill in and do the road rally. I remember Joe, I think, said, I'd do it, but I'm not going to be in town. Yeah. And funny enough, Jeff Greenberg at Village had also called Joe. And I think Joe's response was, I just hung up the phone with Barry DeVorzon. He asked me the same question. Wow. I need to allot enough time. We're going to give away a year-long license for Master Writer. So before we get into that, I want to talk about another one of your entrepreneurial ventures. SongGuard. It's something that you had the idea for years ago, and you just recently rolled it out. I've tried to explain it to a few people that I know, and they go, well, why do people need that? So can you tell us what it is and why they need it?
Well, we're very excited about SongGuard because it's something that I feel is really needed by the songwriter, a service. You know, times change, and I need a little water here.
Go for it.
When I was writing songs, usually you gave your songs to a publisher. You got an agreement. He copyrighted the song, and he served as the writer's agent. He would take it around and get it recorded. Today, the publisher's role is very different from those days. Mostly they administer catalogs of big artists and producers. I don't know, I'm getting a
you want a lozenge?
Frog in my throat. No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I think I've talked too much.
I gave you a little bit of a workout. I do have really good lozenges if you need one.
Okay. Anyway, today it's really up to the songwriter to get his song out there.
Because everybody's indie, or so many people
Yeah.
are indie. Yeah.
And especially if he's a songwriter, artist, or what have you, the only way to get it out there and hope something happens with it is to get it online, to send it to artists and producers and publishers and labels. And I know songwriters.
Yes, you
You
do.
know, money is a consideration.
Yeah.
And most of them are putting their songs out there, and they're not protected. And in my day, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 people might have seen that song. Now millions of people see that song, including all of the people that are currently making the music.
Mm-hmm.
And people are people. If they hear something, yeah, they might want to borrow from it or take from it.
Even if they don't do it by intent, it could just absorb into them.
Sometimes they hear it once and
Right.
3 months later think it's their invention.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. You put your song out there and it's not protected. It costs $35 to copyright a song with one writer, $55 to copyright a song with 2 or more. And this year, it's going up to $55 for one song.
Well, they have to
one
charge
writer.
for all that efficiency at the Copyright Office.
Do you know something? They have it in front of Congress, and they're telling Congress, even at these new prices, they're losing money. And it's now going to cost $75 for 2 or more writers. Now, very quickly, here's copyright law. The minute you write a song and put it in any tangible form, that means a CD, a manuscript,
paper, yeah.
anything, you have an automatic copyright. The reason you register with the U.S. Copyright Office, and this is what's so confusing, is they don't give you a copyright. You already have a copyright.
They just give you a confirmation of the
They
registration. Yeah.
prove and verify the date of creation. And that is essential evidence in case of an infringement.
Mm-hmm.
When did you write it, and what did you write? The content, the melody, the lyrics. So essentially, that is what you get when you register with the Copyright Office. When you register with SongGuard, you get the same proof of date of creation as a copyright provides you. Except with SongGuard, it only costs $3.95. Because it's so cheap, a lot of people think it's a scam,
Right.
but it isn't.
So at least they can't use that to go to court and fight the case, but they can use it in conjunction with the registration of the copyright.
That registration is their evidence of the date of creation.
With SongGuard or
With SongGuard.
Okay.
Now, copyright, same thing. What a copyright does for you that a registration with SongGuard doesn't do for you is it's your ticket to the courtroom. In other words, if someone steals my song, I hire an attorney. Okay, I want to go after these people.
Mm-hmm.
The attorney says, do you have a copyright, a U.S. copyright? No. Well, then you must file for a U.S. copyright right now.
So if you and I and Joe Walsh sat down tonight to co-write a song, did you hear that, Joe? I'm just saying. And we register it with SongGuard, and 5 years down the road, somebody else has hijacked that song,
Yep.
infringed the copyright, but we haven't registered with the Copyright Office yet. We could register at that point and use SongGuard as the proof of date of creation.
Right. Now,
So
on that, let's follow that path.
Okay.
So now, 5 years later, from the time we wrote the song, somebody steals our song.
Mm-hmm.
I get an attorney, we get a copyright. Now, the guy who stole the song has a copyright that
Right.
precedes ours. He got a copyright on the song he stole 6 months before our copyright.
But you've got proof of the date of creation.
I've got proof of the date of creation with SongGuard. So you go into court with your copyright, which gives you the statutory advantages like damages, injunctive relief, and attorney's fees. So you get that with a U.S. copyright. But when you go in with that U.S. copyright, you also go in with the encrypted and impeccable evidence of the date that song was created.
So not only do you provide, or not only does SongGuard provide a kind of a certificate of data creation, you actually keep the song on file.
When you register with SongGuard, it gets a digital signature, a date stamp, it's encrypted, and it's stored on a secure server. You get a receipt with a certificate that you keep for your records, which gives you the same encrypted information. The content, the lyrics, the melody, whatever was submitted. And if that is altered in any way, it's not valid. So it's really impeccable proof, third-party proof.
Right.
And if there is an infringement lawsuit, we send that encrypted information to the court or the attorney and a technician. We give him the key, unlocks it, and proves that this.
So it's a cheap $3.95, $3.95.
$3.95. I thought, boy, what a great idea to make it so accessible. But we're getting so much feedback saying, you're going to protect my song for $3.95. They think it's a scam.
I mean, and, for so many musicians that have 20 or 50 or 100 songs that they've never bothered to copyright because it's cost prohibitive, I would register those with SongGuard and not file the copyrights until I had to.
Well, but you're very right. You can file a copyright when you need it.
Yeah.
Or you can also, when you accumulate a number of songs, if it's by the same writer, you can copyright them as a suite,
right,
for the same price as one copyright. But SongGuard just allows you to protect your current songs. If you write something great and you want to get it out there, you don't want to wait around, but you don't want to get it out there if it's not protected.
And the website is songguard.com?
Songguard.com, and guess what? When you open an account, there is no cost to open an account,
right?
No future obligation, and we're going to give you one free registration just to show you how it works.
That's smart. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Remember that, songguard.com. Let's give away a 1-year license to MasterWriter.
Okay.
Bria, why don't you do it over there? So Bria's got the chat room up, and basically everybody who would like a 1-year license to MasterWriter, type in a +1, and Bria will run the magic finger up and down the list, go like that, pick one, and then that person has to email Bria at taxitv@taxi.com, and she will connect you probably with Barry's son Matt, who happens to be here in the studio today, and he will hook you up. So here we go. Little background music. If you guys haven't tried MasterWriter yet, you're missing out. I'll say, that's a lot of people. And come on, pick one.
Okay, Steven Spinner.
Steven Spinner? Mm-hmm. Steven Spinner, yes. You have won a 1-year license to MasterWriter and all the delicious goodness that comes with it.